Hello YouTube, my name's Andrew, and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you 5 decks that are really good in the XYZ Festival. Yesterday I put out a video as well showing off what I believe to be the 5 best decks for this event, but the 5 decks in today's video are just as good, very comparable. You're just going to be able to watch both of these videos and kind of pick your favorite, whatever works with your existing collection and maybe appeals to your play style. That link is in the description for the previous video if you want to check that out. Yesterday I also made a video about the self-TK deck that was floating around, so we had some really funny moments in the stream yesterday, so I hope you enjoyed that video. But I just wanted to actually take a moment and say thank you to Konami for quickly addressing this. Today I noticed that there was in the maintenance a patch note saying that they increased the rewards for winning a duel from 100 medals to 500 medals without decreasing the loss reward. I think this was an extremely tactful solution that didn't really punish players for either doing this or taking advantage of the situation, but instead fixing the underlying issue that it was very hard to obtain the max rewards from this event by playing legitimately. So I think this was a really great response from Konami. I think the player base is receiving it very well, and it makes me very optimistic about the future of Master Duel, especially since they made this change so quickly. If you guys are liking the kind of content I'm putting out, I really appreciate a subscription to this channel. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. The first deck that I have to show you today is Paleozoic Frogs, a deck that is close to my heart. I've summoned the Totally Awesome many times in the TCG myself, and I have friends who are avid believers of this deck. In this event, I think it's quite good. Now, in Master Duel, Totally Awesome is limited to 1, so it's a bit of an uphill battle, but you have ways to recur this card, bouncing itself back to the extra deck, meaning you're never really going to run out. So for this deck, you're always going to want to play 3 Dupe Frog and 3 Swap Frog. They're just your main dudes. Typically you'll only play 2 Ronin Totem, though 3 is fine. If you do choose to play a card like Pot of Desires, you're going to want to go up to 3 on Ronin Totem, because you'll want to keep 2 of them in circulation at all times. Max C is especially good in this deck because it's a level 2, so you can sometimes use it to overlay into some of your XYZ monsters, but 99% of the time you're discarding this. In case you're playing against maybe a deck that doesn't special summon, it has that additional benefit. 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of this is perfectly fine. You can play other hand traps as well if you're choosing that route, but I prefer to set traps in this deck rather than hand traps. Fury of Kairyu-Shin is a funny card that'll search your deck for Torrential Tribute, but you're using it mostly for the secondary effect if a water monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, like Trident. You can banish this card from your graveyard instead, so it protects your boss monsters, it protects your dudes. Pretty useful. 3 Torrential Tributes for the Kairyu-Shin, though you'd probably play this even if you cut Kairyu-Shin. Like, Torrential Tribute's really good. And then the Paleozoic monsters all have a gimmick where if you activate a trap, if either player does, then they special summon from the graveyard. And they also all cannot be affected by monster effects. So they're pretty weird and resilient little dudes, and they all have different effects. Like this one's Mystical Space Typhoon, destroys one like a spell or trap. This one is Book of Moon, puts a monster face down. This one, you target a card on the field and banish it by discarding a card. Pretty good. And then Morella, you use this to send a spell or trap from your deck to your graveyard. Just a trap actually, and so it's not as good. Some people play a card, Rise to full height, and you can play this in your deck and then send it from your deck to your graveyard and banish it from your graveyard to target a monster you control. Your opponent cannot attack for the rest of the turn except to attack that monster. So it creates like this soft block where they won't be able to lethal you that turn, but you're mostly using it to loop with Opabina to get into additional XYZ monsters, but I'll touch on that in a second. You play 1 Leoncolia, which returns cards from the banish pile to your graveyard. So you can actually, if you do play Desires in this deck, which I do encourage you to try, you can use this to return cards that you banished off Desires, an effect that very few cards have. So if you do banish like too many frogs, then you can return them off Desires. So that's pretty useful synergy. You also can play Lost Wind, which is kind of like 2 traps for the price of 1. Sorry, one sec, my cat wants to say hi. Here's my cat, he's meowing at me. So this card is basically going to negate up 2 monster effects, so it's pretty useful. You're definitely going to want to play Infinite Impermanence in this deck because it's a trap hand trap, so it does both the things that you want. It triggers your Paleozoics and it gives you interruption, so definitely like to play Infinite Impermanence. You can also play a copy of Trap Trick. Trap Trick allows you to kind of search your deck for any of your normal traps, so it is a nice bridge to get from one Paleo to another. It can turn your extra copies of cards into Paleos. Very, very good. I chose to play 2 because it is once per turn. Ice Dragon's Prison is a normal trap, so you can tutor it off of the trap trick whenever you need it, and it's really good in some matchups. Like imagine you can banish a Zodiac from your opponent's graveyard to banish a Zodiac from their field. It works really good against the Dinosaur deck. In the XYZ event in particular, it has a lot of favorable matchups, and then you're going to want some number of Solemn Judgments to make sure you don't get hit by like a Lightning Storm or a Harpy's Feather Duster. For the extra deck, we're going to play the Utopic Draco package. You'll see this in a lot of lists today. It's pretty good in this event. And then you basically just play all the good rank 2s. Gachi is good for making Zeus. Herald of Pure Light can fix your hand. This one's okay. Sky Cavalry is really good at getting rid of problematic boss monsters and for making Zeus. Cat Shark can't be destroyed by battle, so making Zeus, and it also can increase the attack of some of your monsters. Like it makes Totally Awesome 4400, which is randomly useful. Amalocurus, this card is it's like kind of like your own Trident. It can destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field once per turn if it has a trap as material. Just target card on the field, destroy it. So pretty useful to go into. You're going to go into this quite a bit. Opabina, you're going to go into the most. You make this with a trap, and then you can search your deck for Paleozoic traps. And while it's on the field, you can activate your Paleozoics from hand the turn you have them. So it makes the deck much faster, and it's really, really good. You can also make 2 of these very easily by like searching a Paleo, activating a Paleo, using the Paleo effect in graveyard, special summon it, maybe bring back a Ronin Totem, and you can easily make 2 of these to just like, you know, search, and then the second one can't search, but you can just go into like Utopic Draco Future. Crumble Logos will target a face-up card on the field and negate its effects while this monster is face-up, so you can use this to out-random problem cards. Your main man, Totally Awesome, is a negate, it recurs itself, very good, and then Downerd plus Zeus to clear boards. The next deck I want to talk about is Pure Lyrilusc, a deck I initially underrated, but it's actually really good. And it's rather cheap. You can make budget cuts in this deck to make it very, very budget. So you're going to play DD Crow as your hand trap. Since it's a winged beast, you can search it off of Recital Starling. It's pretty good. 3 Jester Confit, Tech Spot. You can just play, this is just a level 1 extender. You can play whatever you want. And then I do have 3 copies of each of the birds: Cobalt Sparrows, Sapphire Swallow, Turquoise Warbler, Barrel Canary, and then 2 copies of Wagtail. You can definitely play 3 Wagtail as well. Actually encourage it. And 3 Maxi, 3 copies of Ash Blossom. You're gonna play 3 Where Art Thou, which just searches your deck for level 1 if you control level 1. So this searches your whole deck. Desires is nice when you play a higher count of the birds. If you do play less Desires, you can play a few less birds. They all kind of do similar things in this deck. You're just trying to get as many level 1s in the field as possible. On that line, Jack in the Hand adds a level 1 from your deck to your hand, so same thing. Bird Call adds a level 1 from your deck to your hand. I chose to include 1 copy of Bird Strike. Not necessary, it's just a nice other target off of Celestine Wagtail. This card can negate all your opponent's monsters, so it turns off their problems, and then you just make a nice, thick Nightingale and attack directly with it, make Zeus, and then clear them off the field. So a pretty good 1-2 punch, and some Call by the Graves, but again, not necessary if you're playing hyper budget. You don't need this. The extra deck, we got Utopia Roots, which can prevent attacks, kind of cool. Utopic Future, very easy to go into here. 3 Recital Starling, you can definitely just play 2, but I mean, there's not a lot of cards you need in the extra deck, so I threw a 3rd one in there. Assembled Nightingale is very good. You can play 1 or 2 of this. I encourage 2 for this build, but this is your main win condition. It can attack directly, and so if you put like 5 or 6 materials on it, it's attacking for like maybe 6,000 damage. It's actually kind of crazy. Utopic Future, you can overlay this on top of Utopic Roots to go into a big Zeus. It's kind of a cool line. Little Fucho. The Little Fucho is unaffected by card effects, so you know it's really good for making Zeus. This deck kind of Zeus Turbo. The Utopic Draco, and then Ensemble Robin is one of your best boss monsters. This card gets multiple bounce effects per turn, very, very good, and then it adds back Lyrilusc when it dies. You could definitely play more than 1 of this if you have them. I chose to add a Promenade Thrush. You don't play this card in like the bird up like Tri-Brigade version, but in this version it's okay. You detach Papa Spell and Trap, so it gives it some utility. And then we do have Downerd Magician, and then I do encourage you to play Vespinato in pretty much all your lists in case you run into like a Crooked Cook. This deck doesn't really have a problem with Crooked Cook because you can attack directly, but still nice to include. And of course, Zeus. The next deck I'm going to feature is Megalith Drytron, a deck that actually really surprised me at how good it was. For this deck, you're going to play 3 Alpha, 1 Gamma, and 2 Zeta. You could play 3 Zeta if you so chose. 1 Altius, and then 3 Manju. Manju could go to 2 very easily. You don't need to play Diviner of the Heralds in this build because you can't play the Herald of the Arclight to send. So actually Manju, being a rare, is a better normal summon in this version of Drytron. 2 of Megalith Fool, 1 Ophiel, 2 Hagith, 1 Och. This is the lineup that I chose for the little guys. You don't have to play Och, you don't have to play the second Hagith, but it's kind of nice having extra names in this deck. Basically, this deck it goes like rank 4 turbo. You go into like the Gallant Granite, search out additional rock names. You can also go into like, you know, Ben 10. It's very versatile. It's very good. But yeah, you're going to be able to use Ben 10 to search for more copies of the Manju. You're not really searching out like infinite negates. This deck puts up a multiple destruction effects and a few negates. You got 1 copy of Phaleg, which is just basically for going for game. 2 copies of Bethor, which is your main boss monster. It targets monsters your opponent controls and destroys them cards your opponent controls. And you're summoning this during your opponent's turn with the Fool. Fool you're going to leave on your end board, and then you can ritual summon on your opponent's turn and blow up their field. It's pretty good. 1 copy of Eritron, not necessary, but this can like negate targeted cards. It's okay, not really with the best one. And then 1 copy of Megalith Drytron. This card can send multiple cards away per turn, and then also you want to leave a Drytron ritual on the field with Mutabeta Fafnir, so that Mutabeta Fafnir gets a negate. Foolish Burial is all of the Drytron names in one. Cyber Emergency searches your deck. Preparation of Rites searches your deck. Drytron Nova searches your deck. 1 copy of the ritual spell. You can play 1 or 2. It's kind of personal preference. And then Unformed is interesting tech. You're going to search this off the Hagith, so you're going to play like an equal number of these to the amount of Hagiths that you play. But basically, it lets you turn one of your dudes into a Fool, so it kind of shortcuts your combo. And I like droplets in this deck because you can send away the Drytron names without really much cost. For the extra deck, we play Assembled Nightingale for Zeus, 2 copies of Mutabeta Fafnir. You could play up to 3 of this, honestly. And then the Ensemble Robin can be summoned in this deck to get another negate-style effect, allowing you to get multiple bounce effects. You can make Dweller, you can make any rank 4, so just kind of play whatever one you have. Downward Magician for Zeus, Baguska, another rank 4 I chose. 2 Gallant Granites. You use this with your engine, and it searches out more of your ritual monsters, so it's really useful in this deck. You could play 1 though. Drill Driver for the Crooked Cook. And then Lancelot, you can easily modulate your levels because Fool changes its level and you can go up to 8 very easily. So getting 2 level 8s on the field is pretty simple. So I chose to play Dingirsu and Lancelot. Lancelot can attack directly, and then either of these you can overlay into Pain Gainer and then into 7 Sins to make a big Zeus. Yeah, this deck is really cool. It's very, very high ceiling, extremely versatile combo deck, and a lot of fun to play. 1 change to this, sorry, I actually just noticed that Megalith Drytron is banned in this format, but you can play the Megalith Quandrids, and this card's actually really good too. You can use it once per turn to destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls, which is hilarious. It also can't be targeted with spells or traps, but the main point of this is not for its secondary effect, but you need to leave it on the board, and the Mutabeta Fafnir gets the effect to negate a spell or trap. So really, really useful. I mean, this card's just as good. It also can summon back monsters when it's destroyed. So you're just going to take this one out and add this one in. The next deck I have to feature for you is Madolche. Now, full disclosure, this deck is expensive. I mean, I've gotten asked about it a lot, however. People are really like passionate about this deck. It is pretty interesting. It is definitely a very good deck for this format, and it's very good in the standard ladder as well. You can definitely get Plat 1 with this. So if you do like the aesthetic of the deck, I mean, definitely feel fine building it. It can compete. But it's not something that you need to build to be good at the XYZ Festival. For my list, I played 3 Herald of the Orange Light, which it can be replaced with Ash Blossom. It's kind of like a better Ash though, because you discard a fairy, yes, but it destroys and negates, so it's more like a Psyframe Lord Gamma. It's really, really good, and it's not once per turn, so you can just negate cards with this and send away your dudes, and then you'll be able to shuffle them away later with Chateau. 3 Maxi, best generic hand trap, and then you're going to play 3 Hoot Cake. You could play 2 or 3, it's debatable. 3 Mageline, 2 Messengelato, 3 Angeli, and then 3 Petting Sessur. You can play 3 Pudding Cess as well. All these are pretty good generic, like, special summons. They all just, like, tutor out the rest of them, and basically it's a 1-card engine where you just go into, I believe it's the Petting Sessur, and then you can special summon this, special summon a Madolche from your deck, and just go off from there. And it turns into like a multiple shuffle away your opponent's cards and deals 8,000 damage kinds of combos. You're going to play 2 Lightning Storm. It's a really good, just like removal card. You could play Raigeki and Duster if those are the ones that you have. You do have to play Chateau. Chateau kind of shuffles away all your Madolche monsters, so they have a bit of a restriction on them where they can't really use their full effects if you have monsters in your graveyard. So using Chateau as part of your combo lets you bypass that restriction. 2 ticket, you can play 1 or 2 of these, And then 3 Salon is definitely going to play 3 of this. Call by the Grave is nice to ensure your combos go through, and Forbidden Droplets is debatable, because sending away your monsters for the cost of this can sometimes turn off your effects. A bit of a nuisance, but it is really good going second. You can just break boards with just 1 card. So very, very nice, and then you can like send away your cards and then shuffle them away with Chateau to bypass the restriction. Infinite Impermanence, though, is very good in this deck. Because it's a hand trap, but it's not a monster, it has perfect synergy with the strategy. And then 2 copies of Promenade for your in-archetype negate. The extra deck is all ultra rares. It's just very expensive. You could play 2 Tiramisu. You could also play 3. Baguska is good generic in case you can't full combo. 3 copies of Glass Souffle is nice, and then 3 copies of Chocolate a la Mode. You go into these basically every turn, so maxing out on them is good. I would definitely still play the deck with 2 of each, though, if you have ultra rare issues like trying to get the ultra rare medals. And then Vespinato is nice for the Crooked Cook shenanigans. And then Zeus. These are the only extra deck monsters you really go into. If you do have extra ones available in your collection, just throw them in here. But yeah, this deck is really cool. If you like it, you can feel free building it and be confident that it's going to be like successful on ladder. But it's definitely not something you need to build to be good at the XYZ Festival. The last deck I want to feature for today's video is Utopia. Now, this deck can be played in many different ways, and the texts that I'm about to show are not, by any means, not the only ways that you can play this deck. You could just pick up 3 of the structure decks and supplement it with some generic staples, and you should be okay, but this I believe to be the most optimal way of playing this deck on the ladder. But let me know in the comments your thoughts on this deck. It's really, really good, and it has a lot of XYZ potential. You can definitely summon a lot of XYZ monsters per turn. It also, going second, has lethal setups, which is very nice to have. So for this deck, I do play generic hand traps, Maxi Ash, and then Onomatopoeia. You can play up to 2 or 3 of this, but I'm just playing 2 for now. 3 copies of Gagaga Coat. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with these names, and then 3 copies of Dododo Dwarf Go 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 Gloves. This card is probably the best one. You can special summon from hand, and then it brings itself back from graveyard. You can use each effect once per turn, so it's kind of 3 monsters for the price of 1. 1 copy of the Armed Sage, and then 3 copies of the Ascended Sage. This one's like the best one. It adds a rank up magic, and so you can add yourself like the Zexal form. But yeah, it's really, really useful. And then we're gonna play 3 of the Astraltopia, one of the best cards in the deck. It basically like sends away any other card, and then you add like anything in your deck. So really, really good. A lot of this comes in the structure deck too. 1 copy of the Pegasus Twin Saber to set up your negate, and then Duster plus Rhoda, which picks up your deck and searches it. You can play 2 or 3 copies of this Onomatopoeia. This card, you send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add up to 2. The only problem with this card is it's ash bait. Like, if you get ashed on this, it really, really hurts. So I don't think it's as good as a card like Zexal Construction, which doesn't lose to ash as hard because you reveal for cost. You don't send from your hand as cost. You do play this rank up magic. It's not necessary, but it lets you easily go into some cheesy boss monsters. You can play up to 2 or 3 of the Zexal Construction. It's in the structure deck, so I included 3 in this list to keep it budget. Card's pretty good, but you can only use once per turn, so it can brick a little bit. And then we do have the Hyper rank up magic, the Utopia Force. This is like the better one objectively in comparison to the Zexal form, but they both have different utility. Pretty cool cards. It is fun like overlaying a bunch of monsters in the XYZ event and making big Utopia monsters. Zexal Field is nice because it kind of like protects your dudes, and then you can do like this Shining Draw. I don't think we actually play the Shining Draw, so that part's not really super relevant. But it does let you go into bigger boss monsters. Again, this could be played at 1 or 2, not as required. I like to play the XYZ Change Tactics. A lot of builds don't play this, but when you do get it, it's really funny because you get to XYZ summon like 10 times per turn, so you get to draw like a ton of cards. You can play more or less of this, up to you. 3 copies of the Onomato Pickup are in the deck. It adds any Onomat card from your deck, so really, really good. You can add the Onomatopoeia to deck thin. You can play 2 or 3 of this card. You need at least 1 copy of Double or Nothing to facilitate the Utopia double combo. If you really fear drawing this, you could just play 2, but it is kind of a brick. It doesn't really do anything on its own. And then Numbers Protection, you're going to play 1 of this for your combo. For the extra deck, you play the Utopic Future. The Numeron Dragon is kind of your OTK combo. You don't need this because your guys get so many attack points on their own, but it's probably the deck that can use this the best. Even better than like the rank 8 decks using the Dragublion, because you get a lot of XYZ ranks on the field, so this thing can get like actually huge, like massive. Utopic Draco Future, pretty easy to go into. And then, of course, Utopia, Utopia Ray. Bagooska, you can cheese this out. I believe this is the one. Yeah, I can summon any number monster, so you can cheese stuff like this out if you so chose. In this current event, Bagooska's insane, because, like, nobody has an out to this. It just turns off every turn. And then Utopia Double is mandatory, at least at 1. This deck plays the Albertarian. It just takes 2 level 4 monsters, and then you can use this to search your deck for any spell or trap, and any level 4 monsters. So it's pretty useful, honestly, but you definitely don't need it. Stealth Kraken, again, completely optional. Just a really good target to summon off the Dragonair, because it can be like a Dryden style effect, destroying 1 monster per turn. Utopic Sage, part of the structure. Utopia Ray, Utopia Leo Ultimate, Utopia Ray, Quantal Physics. Like this card's good too. They're all pretty useful. Hope Harbinger, another number monster you can summon. Hard Earth, another number monster you can summon, and then at least 2 copies of Dragonair. This is kind of the heart and soul of the deck. It definitely was what pushed this into the meta. But a really fun deck, definitely very true to the spirit of the event, and enjoyable when it goes off. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and for all the support of the channel, everyone who's subscribed and likes and comments on my videos. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. I read all the comments on these videos. So that's going to be it for the XYZ Festival, but I'll be back for the Synchro Festival with similar videos. I hope you've enjoyed. If there's any decks that I've missed, just let me know in the comments, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all the support. If you haven't already subscribed, really appreciate a subscription to the channel, and I hope you have a great day.